GenCon, the biggest tabletop game convention in the US, bringing in about 50,000 people every year. It's a monster of a convention, virtually taking over downtown Indianapolis, which is the capital city of the state of Indiana, a mid-sized state in the American Midwest, home of the Indy 500 and the Indianapolis Colts. More on the Colts in a minute. But yeah, check this out. The convention is so big that for 4 days, it takes over the entire Indianapolis Convention Center and all these hotels. The hotel guest rooms get booked up months and months in advance, but the meeting and conference rooms are also booked up with convention-related events. But it gets even crazier. The entire stadium where the Indianapolis Colts play their home games, currently named Lucas Oil Stadium, is dedicated to tabletop gaming for the duration of the convention. So yeah, it's a big convention, which is why this year, when I finally got a chance to go, it was insane that I only had 8 hours to walk around and take in as much as I could. In this video, I want to share with you my experience of walking the main areas of the con and also share with you 3 pretty crazy coincidences that happened to me. Well, one coincidence was pretty minor, but 2 of these things just blew my mind. First, let's just sort of walk through. I don't really need to narrate this footage, it sort of speaks for itself. When the crazy stuff starts happening, I'll speak up and explain. This video is sponsored by Peku, creators of battle maps for role-playing games. They are now on a dedicated new Patreon, making maps of all shapes and sizes for sci-fi and cyberpunk games that include spaceships, space stations, cities, alien worlds, vehicles, mechs, and more. Their maps work in every virtual tabletop, including Roll20, Foundry, Alchemy, you name it. For their mechs and spaceships, they make both the interiors and exteriors to maximize play options, either for onboard action or full-on mech and space battles. Their Patreon is producing 3 or 4 sci-fi battle maps a month right now, and as a patron, you get to vote on what you'd like them to create. Each map that they make comes with a ton of variations, usually about 10 variants per map, so you can get an exact fit for any given scene that you're trying to run. They recommend the $5 tier on their Patreon, which gives you access to all previously released maps and all variations. At the $10 level, you also get animated maps and Foundry VTT modules. They've been making battle maps for 4 years running now, and their Fantasy Battle Maps Patreon has over 18,000 patrons at this point. The requests for them to make sci-fi and cyberpunk maps was so overwhelming that they've launched a whole new Patreon account that caters exclusively to those genres. I can personally attest to their quality of fantasy maps since I've been using them for years. I can't wait to use some of their sci-fi maps in my upcoming games. I've left a link to where you can find their new sci-fi battle maps Patreon down below. All right, back to the video. All right, the first and most minor thing that happened was that I got a little overzealous about taking the plunge into Dungeon Crawl Classics by Goodman Games, and I wanted to get a t-shirt. Well, if you've ever been to the third day of a GenCon, you'll discover for yourself that all the cool t-shirts left are only in size small and 4XL. I don't know what possessed me to do it, but I bought a 4XL DCC shirt and immediately regretted it. But as luck would have it, in the BIPOC lounge, Roll20 had left a couple of free shirts for the taking. One was a size 4XL and the other was XL, which happens to be my size. It's hard for me to explain the amount of luck in finding a free t-shirt exactly my size at GenCon on a Saturday afternoon. I just felt blessed. Okay, the second thing that happened was pretty crazy. When I entered the Colts Stadium, the field down below just felt like a small town, just way too big to explore. But I decided what the heck, I'd just mosey on down and I'd do a quick walkthrough. Well, I got down there and just picked a random path, and it led me to this section where there were a bunch of RPG books on display. One book in particular caught my eye because it was sporting a leather cover that I had created myself. It was a copy of Vaesen that I had given away a few years ago as part of a channel giveaway. I asked the person at the desk if this copy of Vaesen was for sale, and he told me no, that this collection of books was part of a traveling RPG collection called the Alexandria Library. And he said that everyone at this traveling library had been asking around for 3 years where this book had originated. They had even contacted Free League, who had no idea. When I told him it was I who had crafted the book cover and given it away online, we both just sort of gawked about it for a few minutes. I mean, what are the chances? After a whirlwind walkthrough of GenCon, I had the great fortune of having a big group dinner with a bunch of creators, including Chris McDowell of Into the Odd, Trevor Duvall of Me, Myself, and Die, Baron Darop of Dungeon Masterpiece, my old bud Kelsey Dion of Shadow Dark and Arcane Library, Danny Boy aka Professor Dungeon Master, and brother from another mother, Ben Milton of Questing Beast. Ben and I openly acknowledged the fact that he covers all things OSR and I cover everything else. We're like the yin and yang of indie and third-party reviews on YouTube. But check this out. When I was talking with him, I happened to look down and discovered that we were both wearing the exact same brand, style, and color of shoe. I don't even know what to say about that, except that it was the crazy end cap to my tornado of a GenCon experience this year, as short as it was. I'd love to come back and do it again, but here's what I'd like to do differently next year. Allocate 2 full days to the experience, devote most of 1 day to shopping and meeting new folks and listening to panels, and then settling for the evening with a social event. Then on the second day, really dig into playing games that are just coming out, and then doubling down on the social activities for the evening. This year was amazing, but it felt like a teaser of what's to come. I hope you enjoyed seeing some of it through my eyes, and maybe I'll see you there next year. I'll end this video with a page through of the entire program from this year's GenCon. Thanks for watching. See ya.